This content is brought to you by iTrustCapital, which is a great platform that allows you to easily invest in crypto without worrying about taxes or fees. iTrustCapital allows you to invest in crypto through an individual retirement account or IRA. IRAs are tax sheltered accounts, which means all of your crypto is tax-free and can even grow tax-free over time. The process of signing up with iTrustCapital is very easy. They have a mobile app. They have 25 plus cryptocurrencies. They have full support, a dedicated team ready to help you. And it is free. And once again, 100% free to sign up with iTrustCapital. There are no hidden fees and there's no monthly subscription or membership. They also have great security. They utilize Coinbase custody for all their custodial services. So you don't have to worry. It is institutional grade crypto custody that they are using. This is a great platform. Once again, it is free to sign up. So visit the link in the description and go check it out. If you sign up with my link, you get a $100 funding bonus. So once again, check the link in the description. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Gareth Soloway, who's the President and CFO and Chief Marketing Strategist at inthemoneystocks.com and verifiedinvestingcrypto.com. Gareth, great to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. True pleasure to be here.
Gareth, I would love to get to know you a bit better. Can you tell us about your background, where you're from, where'd you grow up, and how'd you get into investing?
Yeah, sure. So try to give the short version. I grew up in a household. My parents, we weren't well off. We were kind of middle income, lower income. Both my parents were teachers, and I was never exposed to investing ever. I didn't even know what it was. Come along high school, I was looking for, what to do to kind of put on my resume for college. Oh, the investing club looks pretty interesting, I said. So I joined it. It happened to be just in that late 90s period when .coms were going nuts, very similar to crypto. And I can understand why people are watching crypto and getting very excited and maybe seeing a career in their future. So same thing happened to me. I was just so amazed by the amount of money that could be made, even as unlikely as it was in the future to see 100% gains in certain stocks very short term. But bottom line is, I was blown away by this amount of money, albeit fake at the time, that you could make. And I said, all right, I gotta pursue this. I mean, if I can make money like this, it's incredible. And again, coming from a household where, we didn't have a lot, it was really mind blowing. So off to school I went. I studied economics in college. Not really anything that I use today other than the principles of economics, supply and demand. After college, I went to work for MetLife in the investment division. I was low man on the totem pole. So they said, go make cold calls. I hated it. I mean, being on the phone, getting hung up on, whatever it might be. So after a year, I left. I said, this is not what I want to do. I had $10,000 to my name. I went and started trading my own capital. Not much capital, obviously, but I went with a prop firm that gave me $50,000 to trade. I had to work 3 side jobs on the weekend. I was a bartender. I taught bartending. I worked at a catering company to just replenish my trading account because I was losing. Like I can't express, and people probably understand, but when you're brand new, you don't know what you're doing. I was an idiot, right? So I was losing constantly. So I had to work to keep putting money in my trading account to replenish it. Over time, I started to get the hang of it. I started to see that these patterns repeat. These when price does this is usually the next outcome. I started to formulate kind of a methodology, and finally I became a profitable trader. So that's really the story about it. It was kind of a long run about it, but truly pretty crazy.
And tell us about the 2 websites that you run, inthemoneystocks.com and verifiedinvestingcrypto.com.
Yeah. So inthemoneystocks.com, we started in 2007. Basically, I give out trade setups and signals that I find in the charts. When there's a good level, I give it out. I say, hey guys, there's a buy level here at X price. People can jump in and follow the exact trades. I tell them when I'm selling the exact sell side signal. And basically I do a daily video that informs them of, I teach lots of technical analysis every single day in about a 20-minute video. So that's the service that I run at inthemoneystocks.com. For verifiedinvestingcrypto.com, it's much the same. So I post up buy and sell signals. and people can basically follow those. We've only had one loser since November out of about 33 trades, I think. So it's been remarkable. And I do a daily video as well with lots of technical analysis, teaching, and analysis on various setups. So it's been fun. I mean, I love seeing people learn. I love, I get these comments from people on Twitter. They're like, you changed how I viewed the markets and stuff like that. And honestly, that's the coolest thing in the world to hear.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously you started in stocks going back to the .com boom, and now we have crypto, then the next boom, if you want to call it that. What was your first encounter with Bitcoin or crypto, and what was your aha moment? And I know there's like two aspects to this. You can trade something and not necessarily be like a true believer, so to speak, which is okay. Are you someone who holds crypto for long term but also trades it? What's your dynamic there?
Yeah, so I was a long back in like 2019. Well, so going back to very early on in like 2012, 2013, I got turned on to crypto, and I said, "What the heck is this?" And I started to realize, and this, I was already getting concerned about the U.S. debt at that point, and the printing of money after the Great Recession in 2009, quantitative easing, all these fancy words for just printing endless amounts of currency. And it concerned me. And so when I saw Bitcoin and I understood that there would only be 21 million mined out there, I said, all right, this is something pretty cool. So I still remember vividly back in like 2012 or so, I had a buy order out on Bitcoin, and I missed getting, I was being such a nitpicker. I was like, I will only take this price, and I missed it by $10 maybe, right? And sure enough, what did it do? It just started to go up after that. And then it had the 2013 high and correction. But that was my first experience with it. And I did buy it, in and out after that. But for the most part, I believe in the long-term story of Bitcoin, but I just think it needs a washout in the near term. So as many people know, when we were at 65,000 or 68,000 in November, I said, hey, it's going to come back down here. This is too much of a bubble. And it has. I still think there's more downside. You need a healthy washout, just like the .coms. I mean, remember, Amazon was a .com that went from $112 to $6 in the bust. And now it's at $3,500. So again, it's not a bad thing to see a washout in crypto where it gets rid of a lot of the junk out there, meme coins that have no real use case. You want the best of breed to survive. That's the healthiest thing for the industry. And I do believe that will happen. And so there will be a point when Bitcoin gets low enough where I will become a hodler and I will hold and just let it do its thing.
So with that said, I would love for you to pull up the Bitcoin chart and talk to us about maybe what we can expect in the short term, as well as maybe the long term towards the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we're seeing in Bitcoin right now, and I've been kind of on top of this pattern formation, is that you're stuck inside of this perfectly parallel trend line channel. So if you connect this high to this high and you drop a parallel line, it perfectly connects to this low and this low. What you can see over here is that you've just hit that high again. In addition, it's the daily 200 moving average. So in terms of short-term price movement, this is resistance, and you have to respect resistance until proven otherwise. So my guess is you're going to see a pullback off of this. All right. I don't know how low. You'll have some support around 45,000 right here. That'll be the first big test. Now, if you consolidate gently down to 45,000, you could be setting up for a breakout. That is a possibility. All right. And again, as a technician, you can never say something won't happen. There's always a chance that it breaks out, even though I think ultimately you will see a break lower. The reason I say that is because if you look at the bigger time frame here and you see this drop here, so this move to the downside and this choppy sideways action, this is known in the technical analysis world as a bearish flag pattern. If you were to look at 1,000 of these patterns, generally 70, 80% of them would break lower. So again, it doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It just means that the probabilities favor that. If we were to start trading for multiple days above this area, then I would start to rethink the logic and this pattern formation, because you could classify it as potentially failing. So again, that's something I'm watching in the near term. Again, basically, we've been range bound here. I've been trading it up and down kind of inside of this. Right now, I am short Bitcoin with members at Verified Investing Crypto right off of this level. We're in the money slightly at this point, but nothing to speak of. But again, we are looking just for some sort of pullback, maybe to 45,000 or so on this chart setup. If you would just indulge me real quick, I would love to show the similarities between the .com here. If you look at this pattern formation, see this M kind of top pattern. All right, so notice that. Remember that pattern on Bitcoin. That's the Bitcoin daily chart. I'm going to quickly show you Amazon's chart going back to the 2000 level. So if you look at Bitcoin's chart, now this is the monthly. I can go to the weekly, so it's a little easier to see here. But basically, if you go back here, and bear with me as I flip back to it, okay, here we are. So basically, you have the same general structure of this M top that we saw in Bitcoin. And the key is to understand that what happens here is that when you top out, this is a psychological top that's formed, and eventually you likely break a lot lower. And you can see what ended up happening to Amazon. Now, on the bullish side for Bitcoin, and this is why I'm so excited long-term, is if we zoom out on this chart, I want to show you this here. That same little M top that was the .com bust is right over here, right? And look at what happened after that. So imagine if the M top on Bitcoin is this same thing, and sure, it might mean Bitcoin goes down to, 10,000 or 20,000 or, whatever it may be, but look at the potential longer term. And I really do believe that this will happen longer term with Bitcoin. So pretty exciting if you look at it in that perspective of maybe getting an opportunity to buy in at a lower level.
Sure. I know some folks have been talking about kind of what you highlighted there, a possible retracement to the 55, 58K range. And then it's heading down into maybe a true bear market. So are you thinking maybe after that 45K bounce, it does something like that, then heads down to maybe the 30s, 20s? I don't know. What are you thinking as far as the next few months?
Yeah, so I think you're right about that. There's definitely a chance that you could go back to kind of that level on Bitcoin where you could maybe go back at least to 52,000. 52,000 is the potential, is another level. So I think if you get above this 48,000 range, then 52,000 does become your next target. For me, the cleanest situation is for it not to get there, since this bear flag is so perfectly aligned inside of this channel. But you certainly have to look at that as a potential. And I would say that we can't discount the bubble top here on Bitcoin, this M top, until you take out the all-time high up here. If you took out that, then you're 100% in a totally different environment versus what we saw with the .coms or any other cycle top on Bitcoin.
Sure. So what do you think? I know some folks follow the 4-year cycles and stock to flow model and all these things. I don't know if you're following any of those models. And what do you think we could see at the end of the year? Is it still a kind of a bear market scenario where Bitcoin's maybe in the 20,000s, things like that?
So that's where I am right now. Now, I still remember people telling me when it was 65 to 69,000, and I was saying, oh, it's going down. They're like, no, but stock to flow. And the bottom line is that stock to flow is very good at long-term predictions, meaning that, you're seeing less supply or whatever it may be. And therefore that tells you a longer term. But the problem is that the markets aren't ruled by logic. They're ruled by investors who are very emotional. And so when you have greed and fear in the mix, greed causes things to go much, much higher than they should, and fear does the opposite. And so again, yes, long-term stock to flow does make sense, but not for short-term periods of panic, right? So that's my thinking, is that we still have to see that washout. Stock to flow makes sense. The 4-year cycle, I'm still trying to grapple with this, because to me, the 4-year cycle is still perfectly intact. Since 2017 was the last high, and we made the high in November of 2021. I know everyone was telling me that too, and it's just I haven't seen evidence of that yet. And also, just to point this out, is that Bitcoin has only been in existence since the Fed has been printing money, right? 2009 is when Bitcoin started. That was when the Fed introduced QE, quantitative easing, which is printing of money. So it makes sense that with all the printing of money, you have this asset going up. We have never been in an environment where inflation is so high and the Fed is tightening. And that's also a concern, is that this is a real test for Bitcoin. How does it handle a hot rising interest rate environment? And I think that's something that we have to watch and see as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly a lot of different macro geopolitical issues happening, Fed interest rates, and then you have the Ukraine-Russia
Yeah.
situation, which could escalate. Um, what are your thoughts on alt season? Typically, historically, based on how things have played out in the cycle before, Bitcoin will pump, then you have your final alt season blow off top, and then bear market. We're seeing some of the altcoins pop off. Are you watching or trading any of those?
Yeah, yeah. In my group, we were long Cardano. So Cardano was one, Polkadot, Solana. So basically any chart setup. And again, because I'm purely technical, I'm all about the chart setups, right? So when we saw kind of key levels holding, and these are some levels here, you can see you had a breakout on this one. This is your next target price on Cardano, which is around $1.40 if it continues to move up. That'll be some significant resistance if it gets there. But I do think that there's something to be said about that. But at the same time, don't expect too much as an investor. You have to understand we're in a tightening environment with the Fed. And that I think that, yes, you get these pops on these altcoins because let's be honest, the NASDAQ's been ripping. It's a risk on environment again, but I don't think it lasts. So, I do think Cardano might get to $1.40. Then I would definitely be suggesting to take profits. I've already taken the exit on that. As again, I'm just more of a conservative investor. Polkadot, same thing. You can see this absolutely beautiful long-term trend line that perfectly held down here, which is why we were long Polkadot, and you see the move up that you've gotten off of it. But again, eventually, I don't think these things go back to their all-time highs. I think that there's too many coins out there, and you have to see the washout first. So I'm in the camp that you want to sell into these big pumps and realize that the Fed is tightening. That means less money in the system, which means less money to invest and pump things up.
Hmm. Now, with regards to stocks, and you mentioned a bit about that. I don't know if you can pull up the S&P or the NASDAQ and so forth and tell us about what you're seeing there and how are you trading that respectively?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Nasdaq right now at the last week or so, the last maybe 4 trading days, I've been actually shorting the Nasdaq. We were long the Nasdaq at the lows here and along a lot of stocks like SEC Limited, which is a video game player, I think out of maybe was it South Korea or Singapore, one of those. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of whipsaw in the markets. This has been an absolutely tremendous rally to the upside in the tech market. I think the NASDAQ 100 is up 15% in the last 2.5 weeks. I don't buy it. Again, everyone said don't fight the Fed when the markets were going up and they kept on printing money. And they were right. I mean, basically every pullback was bought, new all-time highs. Now the Fed is basically choreographing, hey, we're going to raise 50 basis points next meeting, maybe the next one after that, maybe the next one after that. So investors honestly should be selling the rips instead of buying the dips. So that's what I'm trying to do here. You can see we ran right into this little double top. If I throw my 200 moving average on there as well, we're right into that. Short term, I'm expecting a pullback in the indices. And I think, again, stocks like Apple that have had these astronomical moves, really you're right into some resistance right up here as well. And I do think that you're going to see a pullback in the tech numbers. And I think that, by the way, it's important for us to realize that crypto is a risk on trade. Like everyone wants it to be a goal, like, oh, when inflation's high, and it will become that. But right now, there's absolutely money in there that runs for cover when tech stocks fall, when things get scary. So just be aware of that, is if you do see the stock market start to drop, crypto likely will follow suit.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, we've seen high correlation. It's almost it's almost kind of weird what's happening, right? It's like algorithmic or something that they're moving simultaneously. The stock market's up, crypto's up, it's down. I don't know when that correlation got so strong, but it's happening. We can't deny it.
It is. And I think the key is, a lot of the same investors that are running into stocks like GameStop and AMC and even Apple and Tesla, they're the same ones that are buying crypto. So when you see those stocks, and Tesla's had a big move too recently, when you see those stocks ripping up, those same investors are saying, okay, well, if this is working for me, and in the past, crypto was a great buy then too, well, I'm going to put some money in cryptocurrencies. And like you said, I think that's a great point, is that institutions know this. And I'm sure they've built algorithms to buy. When they see one side going, they're going to buy the other side as well, which again, just let it be a warning that then if that switches, you have to be understanding that if tech starts to sell, crypto may start to sell as well.
For sure. You mentioned the Fed interest rate hikes, and we got a 1/4 point bump. How many rate hikes are you personally anticipating? Obviously, we don't know the full details of what they're going to do. They've talked about it, but how many do you think we see within the rest of the year?
So my guess is it's going to be, so right now I think the market's anticipating 8 rate hikes in total. I don't know if that includes the 50 basis points or if that is considered 2 hikes. I'm not really sure, but for me, the Fed is going to be in a huge amount of trouble later this year, because I think most likely it's going to be 4 rate hikes versus the 8 that the market expects. The reason why I expect that is because you already have high commodity prices. Oil is hurting the consumer with filling up the gas tank. You have high cost of food. We talked about energy, and really inflation is like a tax on consumers. Then if you now look at the Fed tightening, if you look at past tightening cycles, it slows the economy, right? That's the goal. It slows the economy. Thus the idea being it slows inflation. So if you have a slowing economy, and you have the additional impact of a slowing economy from high energy and inflation, well, then at what point does the Fed raising put us into recession? And at that point, if we go into recession or it looks like it, I don't see the Fed continuing to raise. I mean, if they do that, you could be talking about depression in terms of what the stock market goes into and the economy goes into. So my guess is they're going to hike a few times. The economy is going to show some real strain and some slowing, and they'll have to step back and say, okay, we need to just pause here and let's see where the economy goes.
So are you thinking we're in a bear market for the next year or so for both crypto and stocks? And then to your point, as things start leveling off with the rate, some of the rate hikes, then we start seeing some upward movement?
Yeah, I think you will see a bear market continuing in stocks and crypto for the next year or so. And if you look back at past cycles, for instance, in Bitcoin, it did take about a year and a half from when you topped out to kind of fully bottom out and start grinding back towards those all-time highs. So my guess is it replicates much the same. I think the key pivot for at least Bitcoin, and I don't know if this will be for stocks, but you'll see that inflation starts to come down in, let's say, 12 to 18 months. The supply chain starts to fix itself, and you get chips coming back in from the new factories that are opening up. And I think what will end up happening is that inflation will come down to like 5%, which still is really high, but the economy will have slowed so much and unemployment will spike as so much that the Fed has to actually start printing money again. And that's going to be the turn. That's when the Fed starts printing money again. That's when Bitcoin starts to make its mega size move to the upside. And at that point, the Fed loses a lot of credibility with not getting inflation back to 2% or sub 2%. But my guess is it's going to be whack-a-mole. They're going to, as long as inflation's the worst evil here, which is really high right now, unemployment is low, they're willing to raise rates. But as soon as unemployment goes like this and inflation comes down, then they have to attack this by printing more money. And I think you're going to see back and forth kind of go. And it's really, it's a mind blowing to see us being in this situation, because I don't really see how it ends well for the economy or the Federal Reserve.
Sure. So I think, to your point, the next plan of action in this bear market is to buy the dips as we hit the lows, and then wait, if you're a long-term holder, of course, and then wait for things to start popping off again.
Yeah, I think especially with crypto, if you even dollar cost averaging in slowly as it gets lower and lower, if you have that long-term vision of what crypto is and what it should be in the future, I truly believe in it myself.
Awesome. Gareth, very insightful information. I have some wrap-up questions I want to hit you with here, and that's some rapid fire, in fact. Favorite food?
Oh my gosh, Mexican. I love burritos and fajitas.
Favorite musician or band?
Oh, I love Stained. I love Queen. I love so many different types of music. It's all mood driven for me.
Favorite movie?
Oh my goodness, Braveheart was a great one. That's the one that comes to mind right now.
Favorite book?
Oh, La Morte d'Arthur, the story of Arthur. My name actually comes from a knight back in the Round Table, so I'd go with that.
And when you're not trading or doing anything with stocks or crypto, what are you doing for fun as a hobby?
Hobby would be going to Orange Theory. I'm a big fan. I used to weightlift more. I don't have a lot of time with the kids. Playing with the kids in the pool here in Florida is awesome. That kind of stuff. Occasionally going out and getting a night out with my wife is always wonderful too, but it doesn't happen too often with kids.
Yeah. Gareth, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
It was a pleasure on my side. Thank you so much for having me.